Have you ever wondered like why you keep fucking things up? Why you say you will go to the gym but you don't go to the gym? Why you want a relationship, a healthy relationship, but you then self-sabotage? Why you say you will never procrastinate and then procrastinate again, right? Why do all these things happen? It's because there are two versions of you fundamentally that exist at the same time and they fight for your. And Carl Jung, one of the godfathers of psychology, has called it or coined this quote that encapsulates this perfectly, which says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In other words, you don't do what you want to do, but what you are programmed for. What the fuck does this mean? Fundamentally, you have two systems that you're running on. It's called the conscious, the thing that you're aware of, conscious mind, and the unconscious mind. Think of it like an iceberg. The things that you see is the conscious mind, The things that you don't see, which are underwater, basically are all the beliefs that you've been raised with that shape your behavior. Think of it in a different way. The conscious mind is the thing of you that chooses your goals, plus relies on behavior when you are not stressed, so when you're relaxed. The unconscious mind chooses your behavior when you are stressed. That's why you, for example, or when you're tired, right? When you're uncomfortable. When you look back at the unconscious, the oscillatory life cycles, right? Which creates this up and down movement. This is the driver. This is the engine behind this behavior. Conscious mind is operating when you feel safe, when nothing is really when you feel, for as long as you're comfortable, your conscious mind will sort of drive your behavior. I'm simplifying things, right? When you are unsafe, when you are about to hit a ceiling, you experience fear and discomfort. That's when the unconscious kicks in, because the unconscious is sort of all the beliefs that are shaping your behavior that will fundamentally try to keep you safe, aka don't grow too much because it's unsafe. And this is a result of beliefs that are from childhood, school, or whatever, right? The system has implanted to you. And obviously in the next workshops I'm going to show you how to reprogram your beliefs, because there's certain techniques that you have to use in order to make that reprogram or rewrite, repaint those ice blocks, replace those ice blocks that are beneath the surface of the water, like the iceberg or the fucking ocean water. Damn it! Why is it so important to rewire your beliefs? Because, as I said, they fucking determine how you live your life. That's why you can say, I'm going to approach the girl when you sit on your couch and chill, but then when you see the hot girl, you don't approach her. Because, oh my gosh, now I'm stressed. Unconscious behavior kicks in. Withdrawal to safety, I'm not going to approach her. For example, I had the situation earlier with Sandra where she's coming to Warsaw, and like clockwork, there was something that pissed me off, and I made a big deal out of something small. By my standards, a big deal. I was like, hey, Sandra, I don't like the tonality, and I think you're ungrateful. And she was like, what the fuck's going on? In that moment, something triggered me. I don't know what it fucking is. It was not the thing. But the clockwork that I describe here is every time Sandra is like visiting me or something, I create drama. There's something that I have to complain about. Usually 3 days, 2 or 3 days before she's arriving, I create drama. I still don't know where it's coming from. I am working on it. It has improved, but that is an unconscious response, because when I look at the messages or the interaction that we had rationally with my conscious mind, which is the CEO, right? This is fundamentally the CEO, the part of your brain that is rational and logical. Unconscious is all emotions, bro. So think of it like a monkey. It's like a fucking King Kong. Captain, like Hercules versus King Kong, basically. And when I responded irrationally, when I respond disproportionately to that event, that means my unconscious was driving. Kevin King Kong, KK. Oh my gosh, almost said it. Let's not stick with the acronym. Whew. Dodged the bullet there. This could have gone so many ways. Anyways, so why, like, how can you find out if your unconscious is responding versus your conscious is responding? Very simple. And you'll notice in this program, there's not much therapy speak here, because I've realized that therapy speak is just making you way more introspective, too introspective, and you get stuck in your head. I don't fucking care about that anymore. I want you to get results, and we don't need therapy speak for that. That's why I'm also not going to dive too deep into why you have all these unconscious beliefs and why they guide your life, because it doesn't matter. Why does it matter why you have a certain belief? It's like saying you drove a car in the mud. I want to get out of the mud. Knowing why you drove into the fucking mud will not get the fucking car out of the mud. We need to get the car out of the mud first, then we can sort of improve for the future which ways we drive in order to not get into the same situation, right? So there's a point, or there's a benefit to analyzing the why, but what matters most is how do we get out of the situation. So how do you notice and realize when you're driven by the fucking unconscious? Very simple. If there's an event in your life, girl leaves you on red, how do you respond? Are you like, oh cool, whatever, I get on with my day? Or a girl that you love, yeah, or find super hot, not some fucking orc? Or do you absolutely start pacing around the flat, checking your phone if she responded, asking yourself if she's going to break up with you, yada, yada, yada? If you respond with cool, whatever, maybe she's busy, maybe it doesn't matter, that's a conscious, healthy response, a secure response. If you have a disproportionate response to a very simple event, disproportion means unconscious. Now, disproportionate can mean, well, what's the scale of disproportionate? Well, you can actually just simply ask yourself, is the emotional experience how strong is the emotional response to the event? So, event happened, how strong is the spike, and how long does it take you to go back to the baseline? If it looks like this, yeah, no, like, oh, she left me on red and it takes you fucking 3 days to get over it, or hours to get over it, that's a disproportionate response. I'm not saying that like Sandra, for example, leaving me on red, I feel something because it pisses me off, but I can get on with my day. That takes me usually a couple of minutes, maybe even not many. Like sometimes it's like, oh, a bit annoying. Yeah, whatever. I could get on with my day. I see a hot girl. I still feel a trigger. Okay, I approach. That means I am not driven by my unconscious anymore. Unconscious means I am driven by fear. Now, where does this come from? Let's do a quick situation here. And how do we get over it? Actually, you want to know how to get over it. I'll teach you that in a second. Where does it come from? These unconscious beliefs, childhood, school, system. I talked about it earlier. Now, I don't want you to make the mistake to blame your fucking parents for everything, or just school or whatever, because when you were a child, and up to this day, your brain is trying to make sense of what's going on around you. Meaning, your brain is a meaning-making machine. So everything that happens to the external, we try to give it meaning. So when you were a child and your dad didn't say, I'm proud of you when you got a good grade, or your mom didn't say she's proud of you, maybe they were just busy and they forgot to tell you. Maybe they didn't pay attention. In that moment, you then interpret that potentially as a kid because you're so fucking narcissistic as a kid, because you have to be, because if you as a kid are not narcissistic and always cry for attention, your parents will potentially neglect you, right? Because you don't understand you don't understand how to verbalize your needs properly. So that's why there's always a disproportionate response. Now, because you are still this narcissistic human being at this age, you think that there's something wrong with you because your parents didn't respond in the way that you wanted them to respond. So interestingly, I think that's what happened with Sandra earlier. When she didn't respond the way that I wanted her to respond, and I created drama, that was just me, like, I don't know, not getting the validation that I didn't get. Like, I didn't get the validation from her in that moment that I also didn't get from my parents, and that's why I then, I don't know, not lashed out, but I brought it up, and it didn't have to be brought up. So that's how you can connect the dots. But I don't want you to get stuck into why, and don't get stuck in why does it keep happening. Don't get stuck into, oh my gosh, there were so many things that happened in my childhood. Bro, I got adopted by my grandma. My parents weren't really there for me. When I was 6 years old, and my mom, like, she was there like every Saturday. She drove me to football, right? And once I gave her a drawing of mine, a painting, and the next week she picked me up and I saw it like full of mud and dirt in the back of the car. I still remember that, meaning it was emotionally charged for me. I mean, yeah, did it hurt at that time? Yes. But like, do I need to fucking make it still a big deal? No. Like, it's in my nervous system. I can reprogram that by reassuring myself and saying, like, my mom didn't potentially have a bad intent there. It doesn't mean that she didn't love me. I can also, if I want to fully reprogram that, I can have this conversation with myself, the Hades conversation that you will learn later on. Or I can have the conversation with her and tell her, hey, mom, you know, back in the days, you did this and it made me feel this way. I'm sure you didn't have bad intentions, but it felt this way. That's how you fundamentally expose yourself to the stressor and then rewire it. This is how you actually also rewire your unconscious. You have to expose yourself to the fear that you experience and then do the thing that you're so scared of. For example, in a relationship, a lot of you guys are so scared of setting a boundary, and then you think you do so much mental gymnastics about affirmations and all this gay shit, and then you wonder, like, why has nothing changed? Yeah, because your behavior hasn't changed. Your thinking might have changed, but your behavior hasn't changed. That's why therapy can become very toxic, because you focus so much on thinking and introspection without applying what you are supposed to apply. Therapy doesn't encourage you too much. It's too soft, because to get through the ceiling, you need to be pushed. You need to gradually increase you need to gradually increase the exposure to the stressor to break through this. If you think of it as a bicep curl. Sorry, let me get my arms straight. If I gradually increase the pressure here, the weight, but then I never push through the pain that I will experience at maximum weight, I will never grow my muscle. So I need a spotter. I have a personal trainer who helps me push through, get those 3 last reps in. That builds the muscle. It breaks the fiber and then heals it. It's the same with the unconscious and the conscious. We need to break the fucking old programming and then like knit it together, stitch it together. Because the subconscious or the unconscious is just fundamentally beliefs that have been imprinted on you because of a very strong emotional interpretation of the event. For example, if you freeze in certain situations, that means your fear is almost unbearable. That's why you're like almost in shock state. In that moment, if you keep re-engaging in that same behavior, aka freeze state, when fear appears, you're teaching your muscle, the mind muscle, that this is the best response you can come up with. You need, ideally me, to push you through this, to give you that 1, 2, 3 additional reps. Because the subconscious cannot be reached through the conscious. The subconscious is only open and able to be reprogrammed when we experience a strong emotion, aka fear, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of whatever. That's why I make you do so many cringe exercises that make you feel stressed. That's when the subconscious opens up. It's like the doors to subconscious are open like a prostitute's legs, and it's like, yes, impregnate me with good beliefs. That's why I put so much pressure on you guys, because that's the way to reprogram you. I cannot reprogram you when you feel safe. When you feel safe and relaxed, actually, let me reframe that. There are certain moments where a relaxed state will also open the doorways to the subconscious. That's why I work a lot with brain waves and theta waves specifically. However, that is only one part of growth. Because when you're like when you only train yourself when you're fully relaxed, that means that let me reframe it. There are two doorways to the subconscious: relaxed and stressed, right? Relaxed is good to reprogram, to go deeper into introspection and feel safe. Yeah. Like, for example, if you have the relaxed coaching, or the relaxed state is great to make you reprogram like beliefs where you fundamentally end up in a free state, usually, like, I don't know, things with your parents, for example. That's where the relaxed subconscious reprogram is great. Approaching women, setting boundaries and whatnot, you need to be stressed, because you're going to experience the same stress in that situation that you're so afraid of doing. And if you would only train it in a relaxed state, you would not create the same environment and conditions for your body to be, the body wouldn't have developed muscle memory yet, basically. Yeah. Relaxed state is to work on form. Stress state is to develop muscle memory. So that's the perfect way of putting it. Awesome. This should make sense, bro. It does, obviously. And now, actually not now, from now on, everything that you will learn is focused on reprogramming the subconscious and making the 95% the fucking most supportive unconscious beliefs that you can imagine. Love and peace. Ciao, ciao.